Hello, I'm Senator Lisa Murkowski, and I'd like to welcome you to this edition of Veterans Spotlight, which is a partnership effort in my office and the Library of Congress's Veterans History Project. This project was created by the Library of Congress back in 2000 as a way to preserve the personal accounts of American war veterans so that future generations may hear directly from veterans and better understand what has happened on our front lines. As we all know, Alaska's relationship with our veteran community is unique. We have the highest percentage of veterans in our population in the entire United States. Our veterans have served with distinction. They have served selflessly, and every single one of them has a story to tell. Veterans Spotlight is our opportunity to listen and learn. We can learn a lot about our country, our state, and ourselves from the men and women who have fought for us and the freedoms that we hold dear. We owe it to our veterans to honor them through sharing their stories, and we owe it to our nation to use their stories as lessons of patriotism, commitment, and service. If you have a parent, a sibling, friend, or a member of your community whose service to our nation should be shared with the nation, I invite you to reach out to me at spotlight@murkowski.senate.gov.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like a no-brainer at our house. I mean, my dad was in the Navy. My brother, when he got out of high school in '59, he went in the Navy. And then, so when I got out in '61, I went in the Navy too, That was just the thing to do. And it was, well, after I joined, of course, at that time in '61, there wasn't really, the Bay of Pigs was going on in Cuba, was kind of gearing up, but it wasn't really, I hadn't noticed that too much. And then when I went overseas, I was assigned to the Providence, and over the seas, then we were doing the Westpac, they call it, the tour of all the Far East and stuff. We ended up, at that time, Vietnam was starting to come on board, and they were having a lot of difficulties down there. We were in Vietnam when they they just had overthrown the government. They changed the guard, and so the Providence actually was the first Navy ship of any size. Actually, we went right up the Saigon River and parked in downtown Saigon. Yeah, it was a guided missile cruiser, and it was actually huge. It was 600 feet long, and in the river, of course, the memory's not that good now. It didn't seem like it was that wide, but anyway, we went right up, and they had to assist us turning the ship around in the harbor because we were putting mud on both sides. Then we turned it around and pushed it up against the dock, and it was crazy, because the ship that size, and they'd never seen nothing like that before. They were just in awe of all this, and it was a crazy time because their government had just been reversed or changed, and so they were actually there without any. All of a sudden, they went from a very, very tight control to almost no control, and so as you can imagine, it was really nuts. They didn't really know how to handle it, and we didn't. We were. I was 18, 19 years old. We didn't know what was going on. Didn't care that much. It was just, but it was crazy. There were divers all the time around the ship. They were afraid somebody's going to sneak in and set a bomb or something, or detonate and try to sink the ship in the harbor. It would have been a big, feather in their cap. But they didn't get a chance to. But it was crazy. I think probably the only thing that really reminds me of Vietnam the most is helicopters. I've never seen so many helicopters in my life. All of a sudden, this guy was just alive with, these helicopters. And even today, I can hear one just like that. That's where I go. It's right there. But that was probably my biggest memory of that. Well, Saigon, of course, there's a lot of French influence in the architecture and stuff. It wasn't like I expected it. I expected little huts and stuff, but Saigon is a pretty well-developed city as far as architecture is concerned. It was just it was just craziness. The whole time frame was crazy. Now looking back on it, it was just kind of a blur, And then had some medical issues and went to the veterans, and they did testing and stuff, and that was apparently part of the reason for some of the issues that I have now is from that. And that was, I guess, in '62, '63, they were using a lot of it there at that time, trying to get the foliage down so they could, just to eliminate a lot of the hiding places and stuff. So, and we knew nothing about it. We had no idea that they were doing any of that. We didn't know that till years later. And of course, being a sailor, they, they had a little difficulty saying, well, you were really in Vietnam. I said, well, yes, we really were. I finally had a picture of the ship tied up to the dock. I said, there, now that's, so that seemed to convince them, so they finally accepted their share of the responsibility for it. So, and they've been really good. They've been taking care of stuff. So when I got out, I went, it wasn't popular, even then, but it became less popular, as it developed. And during that time, I messed around, just worked here and there and stuff, and I finally decided, well, I got married and had a baby and decided I needed to do some school, so I went to college, and that was in the 1967. Well, at that time, Vietnam was really heating up, and it was becoming very unpopular, and it was getting a lot of press. And so, first thing we did was I joined the Veterans Club, because, we needed our buddies coming back, and they were having difficulties, and so we ended up, we were the largest people on campus. We had the biggest group of organized, in the campus. So during the Vietnam era, the teachers and stuff were very young. Most of us were older than the professors. And they would come and tell us, that tomorrow there would be no class. They would be standing against the war, in vigilance. So we thought, well, that's not right, So we went to the Dean of Students and said, hey, we object to that, So he said, well, if there's students in the classroom, then the teachers they're obliged to stay. They can't not teach. So we got together and we put a veteran in every classroom. So that was our little campaign that we did to try to keep perspective on it. That it wasn't the guy's fault, but some of them were, well, they're just a political era. The whole time frame was crazy. It was just it was a time that I don't think that America was very proud of, as far as the way they came out. But, it's changed a lot now. Thank God. Guys aren't getting the same treatment now that they did. When I was dealing with this Agent Orange stuff, well, the American Legion advocated for me. They said, we'll take it and we'll take care of this for you. So they did. So I thought, well, whenever it resolved, I said, if they've done that for me, I should be able to do something back. So then we rejoined the Legion again. We've been in several times over the years, but then it's been about 10 years ago. We rejoined the post here at Wasilla and started becoming involved, and then so now we're up to here with Linda's on the executive committee for the auxiliary, and I'm the adjutant at the post. The second year now I'm doing that, and it's. We have the American Legion Riders. I'm the director of the Riders for our post, and so we ride for the Legacy Fund. It's for the fallen soldiers since 9/11, and we provide scholarships for their children. And so that's huge. I think last year nationwide we gave $700,000, something like that. It was, our little post here. I think we came up with 5,000 just for our little group here. So it's rewarding. It feels good to kind of give it back, because like I say, the guys in the service now are, they're getting treated better, and that's one of our goals, is to make sure that they never are not treated with the respect that they deserve, because, we've done it wrong once, or a couple times, actually, and we're not going to do that anymore. If we have anything to say about it, we're going to try to do the best we can to make sure these guys are recognized for the heroes that they are. So it's one of our goals, and I think we're accomplishing it. My mom was in a assisted living in Washington, and her neighbor at the assisted living was a World War II veteran. And we've known him all of our lives. And anyway, when I was visiting my mom, he'd come down, he'd been on the honor flight, and I'd never heard of it. So I was there for several days, and so every day he would have me down to his room, show me pictures and all that. He was just thrilled. And I thought, well, that's a cool program. So I thought, when we get back to Alaska, we'll see what we can do. So we got back to Alaska, and we started looking around and realized Alaska didn't have a hub. And I thought, well, we got more veterans per capita than any other state, and we're missing this boat on this. So we got on the phone, started calling, talked to a guy in Georgia who's coordinator of the Honor Flight Network and developing new hubs. And so he said, well, I'll tell you what, he said, I'll send you a packet, and if you decide to do this, he said, it'll probably change your life. Well, we decided to do it, and it has. You know, it's been crazy. It's been just absolutely crazy now. So that's what we're trying to. We're getting the veterans. We got the names, and now we're trying to generate enough money to put together a trip for these guys, and it's a huge task. And of course, time is urgent because our veterans are World War II guys are the youngest is 85. And they go all the way to the last trip we were on with a lady who was 96. So if we don't do something 5 years from now, there won't, you know, we could miss it. So we don't want to do that. So we're gonna do Korean. We're doing World War II Territorial Guard is our emphasis now, and Korean, and then eventually we'll transition to Vietnam as we get these guys on the trips, and we'll try to everyone that is able to fly, we're going to try to take them. So. That's what our life has been so far, and it's been crazy. It's absolutely, these guys are, I mean, these guys, when they got out of the war, they came home from World War II, my dad, another, they just come in, threw their duffel bag in the corner and went to work. They never talked about memorials, they never talked about nothing. All they had to do was, they did what they were asked, and now they needed to get on with it. And that's what they did, and the World War II memorial was the last one built. Vietnam was there, Korean was there, and then finally, and really, I guess it was because they never asked. They weren't beating the drum, you know. And finally, some, I don't know, it was a senator or somebody started looking into it and thinking, what are we doing? Why are we missing this? You know. So it was. I think it was constructed in 2004, which meant most of them didn't see it. You know. And now at the age, if they haven't gone, they can't. You know, they don't have the ability. So. That's what we're doing, is trying to make that work for them. And it's, the flight we went on with these 6 guys, it was, well, there's 4 or 5 guys and one lady, and it was remarkable to watch them just interact with each other. They didn't know each other before. I mean, we put them together, and then we joined the Southern Oregon. And so nobody really knew each other, but I'll tell you, they became fast friends, and you could listen to their conversations, and they talked about stuff that some of the family members who were with these other guys, they heard stories they'd never heard before, just because of they just didn't talk about it, you know. So when they get with people, their own peers, and their people had been there, and boy, the stories really started flying. Some of the guys admitted, some of them were embellished a little bit, but you know, it was fun. It was a great trip. It was. That was exciting for them as it was for us, you know. So it's worthwhile. We've made a goal to do it, to try to get as many guys as we can to fly, and so we're determined. Failure's not one of what we do, you know. So we're going to do the best we can, and hopefully we can get people to be generous and help us. And people so far have been really good. They've been very helpful, you know, to getting us going. You know, I've been thanked more for my service in the last 2 years, 3 years than I had in 50 before. I mean, so the awareness is much, you know, it's a lot greater now than it ever has been. And I think that, you know, we're going the right way. I mean, we need to recognize our people, the sacrifices that they made, you know. And some people take them for granted, you know. I mean, unfortunately, not fortunately, I guess, the awareness has become more. As we get smarter, I guess, as a nation, you know, we recognize emotional trauma and stuff. Sometimes it's, you know, you're not walking around with a bullet, didn't you? But you're scarred. And I think this Afghanistan and Iraq and stuff has helped bring a lot of the PTSD. World War II, Vietnam, they never talked about PTSD. You're shell shock, you know, get over it, move on. You know, that was the attitude you had then. But now they're tuned in and people are listening. And these guys are coming home and they're getting some help, you know, and I think the veterans have stepped up considerably. When I first went to the veterans 10 years ago, I felt like I was imposing on them, you know, like, what are you doing here? You know, you're scamming, you know. And today it's not that way. You know, in fact, I've moved most of my care to the veterans because I feel like I'm getting they're taking better care of me. They're more concerned, you know, so. Yeah, we could do better, I'm sure, but I'll tell you, it's come such a long ways. I think that we're obviously we're going the right way, and I'm proud to be part of that. So it's all about the veterans, and I think that's where we need to be, and I'm proud to be part of it.